a straight line. So this is more stretched out caudally because of increased effort during inspiration. Okay? And the lungs are stretching out to about T13L1. So they are going past T13. So this is hyperinflation of the lungs. So these two are also signs of feline asthma. Is there a question?
I was going to ask you for the angle, but you said you used the cervical vertebrae.
Yeah, usually the thoracic vertebrae we use to see how far the lungs are extending. Okay? And bronchial calcification, like I told you, it can happen in older dogs. Okay? We still have 10 minutes, so I'm going to continue with interstitial and see how much we can do. Good? So interstitial pattern is, it happens when the disease is in the parenchyma or connective tissue, in between the airways. Okay? And this is divided into unstructured or structured interstitial pattern. Unstructured is when there are no clear margins. Everything is just hazy, diffuse opacities present in the lung parenchyma, but nothing has sharp margins, like a nodule or a mass. Okay? Diffuse opacity present, and also sometimes this will obscure the vessels. And I will show you in the examples what I mean by that. Structured interstitial means either miliary pattern or a nodular pattern or masses. In summary, structured is something with sharp margins. So you are seeing opacities in the interstitium with sharp margins. So nodules will have sharp margin, masses will have sharp margin, and miliary is reticulonodular, which means very small nodules. It's actually nodules, but teeny tiny. So this is just a pictorial representation. So these are the alveoli or lung lobes, and then this is the interstitium in between the alveoli. So the disease is actually within the interstitium. So in between the alveoli and airways. So the haziness is just without any sharp margin, it's just diffuse opacity. And these are nodules or masses which have a sharp margin. So structured versus unstructured. Okay? So this is a normal, and then these two have interstitial disease pattern. So interstitial pattern. Would you refer to this as structured or unstructured? Unstructured, because we don't see the sharp margins. Everything is just diffusely opaque. Okay? On this one, do you see some donuts?
Yeah.
Are you seeing some donuts too? So there are some donuts, but like I told you, there will be some in the hilar area. But are you able to see donuts in the periphery? There are a couple. There are few. So in this case, if you have to pick one, compare this one to this one. Which one do you think is more prominent? So this is where the gray zone happens. Some people will call this bronchial, some will say interstitial, some will say bronchointerstitial. The goal is we have to treat the patient, right? Whether the disease is in the airways or the interstitium. So what would you do in this patient? If you say bronchial, what's the next step? A bronchoalveolar lavage? Maybe? If it's interstitial, what's the next step? It's still lavage. So, the thing is, don't get too much stuck into what pattern it is. The goal is, what am I going to do with the patient, right? So, this is just, it gives you a clue. Like, most likely the disease is in the interstitium versus airways. Question?
Why would you do a lavage and when would you do a lavage?
Why, pardon me?
Why and when?
Well, those are more medicine discussions. Have you done bronchoalveolar lavage in medicine? So I would suggest wait until Dr. Martin does that, because I'm sure.
I've done it in horses, but it's because they had a RAO.
Uh-huh.
In this case,
So, RAO, you mean the airway disease?
yeah.
The recurrent airway disease, right?
Yeah.
So, we do bronchoalveolar lavage basically to find out what's going on, and that gives us a clue if it's inflammatory versus infectious versus neoplastic, things like that. So, whether it's interstitial disease or airway, it will give you some idea. Usually with the airway disease, if it's infection, we culture that lavage fluid and you will get a positive culture, and then we do sensitivity, you will have an answer. For interstitial, usually it's the eosinophils that you will see in the lavage. So doing a lavage does help you with the answers. Question?
So like, in cases where you get, say like this right here, so did you say that one in the top corner were interstitial pattern most likely?
Yeah, because the opacity is really very prominent.
So like, in those, do you always have to do a lavage if you know the history, so like one that you know the location, so like, say the patient came in coughing, syncopal episodes, and then it had a very high level interstitial pattern. You don't really have to do a lavage there because you know that's probably cardiogenic, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So you don't have to do lavage is not your like first line of action. Your first line of action is you correlate the history, correlate the clinical signs. If there is a heart murmur, you see a big heart, most likely it's because of congestive heart failure. And you never do a lavage in congestive heart failure. You don't need to, right? You have to stabilize first. Sometimes there will be combination, maybe a cardiac disease and airway disease. So in those cases, you will stabilize the pet first. So lavage is like the last thing you will think about. Okay? Any other question? Alright, so interstitial pattern can be diffuse, which means all the lung lobes are affected. Or it can be focal or localized, which means a very given area or very one lung lobe or even a smaller area within the lung lobe is affected. So you can divide it into focal, multifocal, diffuse. So start adding those adjectives to your description. Like this is an example of a multifocal. Okay, because you can definitely see these focal areas with opacities like this one and this one, okay? And this is structured or unstructured? Structured will have very sharp margins. So I'm going to show you how structured looks like. This is still unstructured, okay? Now see how the lungs appear hazy and they are not as radiolucent as they should appear in a normal dog. But this is a normal dog, so why are the lungs looking hazy? Old age can cause that because there will be some fibrotic changes in the lungs. Or you also have to check if you are capturing the radiograph during inspiration or expiration. So if it was captured during expiration, that can cause appearance of increased opacity. Okay? So how do I know this is expiration? It's a diaphragm. Yep, good job. So if you see increased space between the caudal margin of the heart and the diaphragm, that's usually inspiration. If the diaphragm and caudal margin are coming together, it's usually expiration. Okay? This is expiration. And also another factor that adds to it is lateral recumbency. Because we just discussed the side which is recumbent will be more collapsed. Okay? So some haziness is due to collapsed alveoli on the recumbent side. I think we can stop at the differentials. So these are some of the differentials for focal interstitial. Some of this is overlap with the diffuse, but usually atelectasis, which is collapsed alveoli, may be due to recumbency. Contusions or hemorrhage within the parenchyma Contusion may be from trauma, hemorrhage may be rodenticide toxicity. Pulmonary embolism can cause that too. Airway obstruction, for example, a foreign body or a mass. Interstitial pneumonia, which would be more bacterial or viral. Interstitial edema, which would be your cardiac disease. Parasitic migration can also do interstitial pattern. Okay? And these are examples for generalized or diffuse unstructured interstitial patterns. So some of this is overlap. So infectious, parasitic, viral, bacterial, interstitial pneumonia, which is usually because of accumulation of the eosinophils. So it's called eosinophilic interstitial pneumonia or pneumonitis. Edema, again, may be due to cardiac disease, toxicity like rodenticide, inhalation, and metabolic like pancreatitis, septicemia. Okay? Alright, and then we can continue with structured mistake. Alright, all the best for your exam preparation. Thank you.
Yeah, this stuff's not that big, it's just silky. I mean, the needle's pretty big. Sorry. Trace, are you leaving your